Hey everyone, welcome back to the I Believe podcast. I'm Megan, and we have an amazing guest today. We have Pervis Taylor. He's a mental health practitioner. Welcome, Pervis.
Thank you for having me, Megan. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Well, we are so excited. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do and how you got into this.
Oh wow. So I'm a mental health practitioner, and what that means is like I teach on mental health in the collegiate system. I do corporate trainings around mental health and emotional intelligence. I write books around emotional intelligence. I do some coaching. I do one-on-one coaching, but really everything is encapsulated in mental health. I have a master's degree in clinical psychology from Columbia University, and I've been doing this work for 15 years, and I absolutely love what I do. I guess, how did I get into this? I used to work in the music industry. I worked at Def Jam Records. I was signed to Wilhelmina Models, and very, very quick story. So my father calls me one day. I was 24 years old. I'll never forget this. And he says, son, I know you're doing all this modeling and you're working at a record label, but I feel like you're going to write books. I feel like you're going to help people. You're going to help men in particular. And he's telling me all these crazy things. And I'm like, okay, Dad, okay. Not knowing that that was the last conversation I would have with him. He passed like the next week. And so I always say that I arrived at this place through prophecy. And obviously losing a parent, you kind of go through all these emotions. I went through like a deep, deep depression. And I asked myself, I said, what brings you joy? And I thought about, Megan, I'm so serious. I thought about childhood. I was always the person that people came to for safety. Like people would share their secrets with me, people would come to me for encouragement. And I said, oh, that's what it is. That's who I'm supposed to be. And so, studied, got my coaching certification, went to grad school, studied clinical psychology, and here we are.
That's an amazing story, and I'm so sorry about the loss of your father, but what an
Thank you.
inspirational way to get to where you are. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. I tell people that people like, you're lying. I'm like, no, I'm dead serious. That's exactly how it happened.
Wow. That
Yeah.
is really cool.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I love what I do. I really do.
That's fantastic. And we're so appreciative that you're taking the time to bring this information to us and just help us educate and spread the word and get this information out there. So thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure.
Purvis, why do you think so many men still feel uncomfortable talking about mental and emotional health?
Well, I was thinking about that. I was thinking about my own life, right? I had two wonderful parents, but the way young boys and young girls are socialized is very different. I remember I couldn't cry. My father was like, suck it up, or I would get in trouble. I would get on punishment if I cried or if I was emotional in any way. And I remember my sister could have all these meltdowns and it was like it was fine. And it was fine. And so, like, I learned like my emotional world doesn't matter. And then you add culture to it. I grew up in the South, and if you were emotional or sensitive, you got called names. And so, like, you learn quickly to suppress and perform. I was awarded and rewarded for my performance, never for just my being. And so, like, I learned like that was the way to be. And I think a lot of men learn the same way. I think our fathers learned the same way. And I think our grandfathers learned the same way. We never had an opportunity or the space to negotiate our emotions or regulate. And so I think it's a generational curse, if you will. It's something that's passed down from generation to generation. I teach a course at York College in Queens, New York on emotional intelligence. And I asked a young man, he was showing up to two sessions and he stopped coming. And I asked him, I said, why did you stop coming? He said, yeah, my girlfriend said I was sassy for attending, this emotional intelligence workshop. And I saw his girlfriend. And I said, "Do you know that young black men have the fastest growing suicide rate in the country?" And she was like, "I said, yeah. You want to be careful about what you say to your boyfriend, to say to other men in your life." I said, "It's important." I said, "This is a real serious situation." I said, "Suicides are led by men. That's across the board. So I think I just think that a lot of men haven't had the permission or the space or even the know-how to deal with their emotions. So they just suppress.
Absolutely. I think you hit that right on the head. I mean, absolutely.
It's really sad, actually.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, men and women, but you're right, especially men. But even women out there, I think, can relate to that of like, suck it
Absolutely.
up. Yeah, suck it up and put on a show and be happy. And, I think this hits housewives really hard too, that because you choose to stay home with your kids, you should always be happy and loving every minute of it. And you don't get to be stressed out and have a meltdown. So I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling.
Yeah, and even women are rewarded for performance, right? Like you just said, being a housewife, performing, being happy. So I think it's something that we both share, but I think in general, men are just not communal when it comes to expressing our emotions in our emotional world, whereas women tend to be more, which is why women tend to heal quicker in given those situations more than men. And a fun fact, I don't know if it's true now, but at one point it was true. Women on average speak 30,000 words a day. Men on average speak 10,000 words a day. And if you think about therapy, therapy is an exchange of words. We heal through our words, right? So the more descriptive, the more you can name something, the more you can be truthful, the more you can explore something, the greater your healing will be. And if you think that men only speak 10,000 words a day, that tells you a lot about why we're not healed in the way that we should be, you know?
Yeah, I totally believe that. And I think it's a comfort level that you're not going to talk and open up if you're not comfortable. And so it goes right back to what you said about if being vulnerable is not okay, then you can't go there.
Absolutely. And I think, one of the things that I teach, Megan, to men, not even just young men, and to people, is that vulnerability is really a superpower. It's a strength, right? And I think that we don't view it that way because when we think about vulnerability, we think about risk, but we never think about reward. Think about this. In order to be in love, right, you're risking getting your heart broken. In order to have success, you're risking having failure, right? But you concentrate on reward in those aspects. We never think about that when it comes to our mental health or our emotional health, the reward that we can actually get the help that we need, you know
Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it. I mean, it's one of those things that you just don't really think about until someone points it out. And then you're like, oh, yeah, like that makes sense with everything in life.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. And I understand why men and humans in general, why we are afraid of vulnerability, because we've been hurt, right? We've been betrayed. We've been, you know what I mean? We in spaces that we thought were safe and we found out they weren't safe. So I understand it, but you have to ask yourself, does staying the way I am I okay with staying in this pain, in this turmoil, or is it worth potentially I cannot feel this way anymore?
Yeah. And do you feel like the ego plays into that as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The ego, and that's why a lot of times people don't get help. A lot of men don't get help because our ego. Like, what? There's nothing wrong with me. And I often tell, it's funny, I tell, wives, I said, like, don't ever tell a man he needs this because it makes it seem like he's broken and that you're perfect and everything's wrong with him. And I just think that it's important for us to, come to a space of understanding that we're all struggling. We're all going through. We all need help. We all want the same things. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you really
Yeah.
think about it, Megan, we all want the same things.
Right. Okay, so you often talk about unlearning unhealthy ideas about masculinity.
Hmm.
What does that mean and what does that look like?
Oh gosh, it. I always remember growing up. I would watch TV. I watched the Golden Girls, right? And they always like, I like the strong, silent type, right? And now that you're older, you realize that the silence is what's killing us. And so unlearning that we can't be verbal or vocal about what we're feeling is something that absolutely needs to be unlearned. Because I always say only what you confess can be healed. And so as men, we have to unlearn that we just gotta suck it up and keep it moving. Now there is a time and place, and I think that's for everybody where you have to like kind of like tuck your emotions away for a little bit so that you can get through what you need to get through, but don't leave it tucked away. address them, experience them, feel them, process them. And so like that's the one, I mean, there's many things, but the first thing that came to mind is like silence. No, we need to talk about what we're feeling. And that's the most important thing. Like I try to teach men how to develop an emotional lexicon because we're more than just mad, happy, sad. There's so many ranges of emotions and feelings and experiences within that. And so I think the biggest thing is for us as men to unlearn being silent.
Yeah, I know that for me, even though I'm a woman, that's super hard because the more
Yeah.
upset I am about something, the less I want to talk about it. And
Yeah.
so it is like an uncomfortable thing that you have to, like you said, figure out, is it worth it? Is it worth the reward of healing to go through this uncomfortable, icky conversation that I don't want to have?
But Megan, honestly, and that is the result of trauma that's built up over time when we get to a space of just uncomfort, right? Because I'm the same way. But when I realized, when I said, oh, Purpose, you have to really spend time with yourself. That's another thing too, like us being introspective, teaching men how to be introspective, like not check in with yourself. Like Megan, I struggled for a long time with people not keeping their word. Now, obviously, nobody likes that, right? People who not keep it. But for me, it was like gut wrenching. And once I really sat with myself and explored, I said, Purpose, why is this such a big deal for you? And I thought about when I was 5 years old. My father said he was going to take me fishing. And he said I had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I'm 5 years old, Megan, getting myself up at 4 o'clock in the morning. My father did not come home that night. He would do that. My father had a drug problem and functional drug addict and things like that. So sometimes he would be like amazing, and then sometimes he would be absent and just weird. And this particular time, he didn't show up. And I said, "Oh, that's the origin story of why I take it so personally." You
That's
know?
that's so cool that you could figure that out. I mean, I think you're completely right. Like when you can figure those triggers, like for mine, I figured out I get afraid of being in trouble. I don't want to have a conversation if I think someone's going to be mad at me. And
Oh,
so
yes.
it did take a lot to figure that out for myself. And working with
Yeah.
someone else, like I didn't figure it out on my own. I had to work with
Yeah.
someone else and they had to get me there of what exactly is this trigger. And it is, I don't want to be in trouble. And not necessarily like I'm going to
Right.
be grounded, but like somebody will be mad at me or yell at me or there's going to be a conflict.
I always say, Megan, that people oftentimes don't confront or tell the truth or really confront a situation because they're afraid of that, right? But not realizing that it's at our expense.
Yeah. Because you hold it in and then it festers within you and it definitely is worse. Yeah.
Yes.
I relate it to like, and this just happens to fit this situation, but I relate this to anything in life. It's like doing the dishes. You don't want to do it, so you put it off. And then all of a sudden it gets worse and it gets worse and it gets worse and you stress about it. And then when you finally do it, it's horrible because it's built up. Where if you would have just done it in the first place, you would have had a relaxing, enjoyable day because you wouldn't have had to worry about it. It would have been easy. It would have only been one round of dishes instead of 4 days worth. And so I always
Yeah.
relate that to doing the dishes with, I mean, you can apply it to anything in life.
Yeah, no, I told people, and it's public, so like I'm not shaming him, but I look at Will Smith and what he did to Chris Rock. I often tell people like that wasn't that moment. That was years in the making. That
I'm
was years of
sure.
not doing dishes. You know what I mean? That was
Yes.
years of not doing the dishes, and then all of a sudden you have this a room stacked full of dirty dishes, and of course you're going to explode. And so
Yeah.
that's the thing. Is like I don't want any of us, men or women, and even though my program is for young men, women
Mm-hmm.
attend the sessions as well because I want everybody to be healthy and whole. Like I don't want us to have those experiences where we just lose it or we snap when it could have been prevented if we just would have dealt with the issue as it occurred instead of suppressing it.
Oh, I love that. I think that's so important.
I mean, men, they explode. We explode when we don't. I will never forget this, Megan. One time, my first job in New York was in music publishing, and I grew up being bullied. I was bullied. I was emasculated. I dealt with sexual abuse, like a lot of things growing up. And I remember my coworker. She just triggered me, Megan, and I went completely off, almost kind of like Will Smith. But it wasn't her. She didn't deserve that. Who deserved it were the bullies, were the people who abused me, the people who emasculated me. And I took that one moment to take liberty. And that poor girl, I apologized to her later. I deeply apologize. But she didn't deserve that. She did deserve something, some of it, but she didn't deserve all of what she got. And so, like, I can attest as a man, if we, I mean, just anybody, if you don't deal with your emotions, you're going to explode, period.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense.
Castle Biosciences is a proud sponsor of this I Believe podcast. Castle's innovative uveal melanoma tests provide valuable information about the risk of your eye cancer spreading to help you and your healthcare team individualize the management of your disease. To learn more, visit castlebiosciences.com.
Another thing I wanted to ask you about is emotional fitness. And I feel like that kind of segues right into this is like, okay, so we realize the problem and the triggers. How do we then get the emotional fitness? How do we get there?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is it literally takes, I think, 90 seconds to like 2 minutes to experience a full emotion, right? But think about it. We never allow to sit in that emotion too long. We either react rather quickly because we're uncomfortable sitting in our emotions. So I think the first step to emotional fitness is being comfortable sitting in uncomfortable emotions. I often tell people emotions are not good or bad. They're just emotions. They just earmark where you are on your journey. And being able to experience them, they subside. The intensity subsides if you sit in it. Oftentimes we avoid it because we're uncomfortable. And so therefore, you know what I mean? By the time we do sit in it, it's like erupted into something completely different. So the beginning of emotional fitness is sitting in those emotions, no matter how uncomfortable they are. And then I think the next point is identifying what really is happening. What really pissed you off? What really got you to this space? Because, you know, emotions are tricky. Like, for example, anger. Anger is a secondary emotion. The primary emotion is hurt. But then underneath hurt is disappointment. And underneath disappointment is expectation. So if you can trace what was the expectation that you had, then you can get to the root of it. And then all of a sudden it's not as big as it was. So part of emotional fitness is learning how to sit in uncomfortable emotions and then also identifying what is the expectation and being able to articulate what it is that you're experiencing. Because I say the more you're able to articulate what you're experiencing, you're able to be located. Think about it. You said you work with somebody, right? They were able to locate that you felt like, I don't like to confront or I don't like to have uncomfortable conversations because I don't want to get in trouble. They helped you to identify where that was because you were able to articulate. So they were able to locate you.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I told her in the beginning, I'm fine. I'm great. I have no issues. I'm good. This was not in fact true.
But you were, through the course of talking,
yes,
you were able to be located.
Yes.
So that's part of fitness. Emotional fitness is being able to talk so that you can be located. And you know, a lot of young men, it breaks my heart, but a lot of young men say to me like, "Pervis, I don't know who I am."
Yeah,
you know,
that's a tough one.
It like I got a lump in my throat now just thinking about it because they haven't had a chance to really, part of who you are the emotions that you experience. You know what I mean? You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, it's important that everybody, human beings, that we learn emotional fitness, that we learn how to name and identify, and then learn how to process. And then, you know, I always say emotional intelligence is really about yielding a positive outcome. And a positive outcome could be that you didn't cuss somebody out or that you didn't scream. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? That you learn how to say, okay, I feel this way right now. I'm really pissed about it, but I'm not going to react.
Yeah, and I love the way that you talk about like the root of the emotion, how, you know, going all the way down to expectation, because I think that's such a light bulb moment for so many people, including me, of, yeah, it's not just face value, that's the emotion. There's several steps to get down to the trigger, not just one underlying. So I love the way you broke that down.
Yeah, no, like when I discovered that, I said, you know, when I was mad, when I thought about 5-year-old Purvis, I was like, oh, your expectation was your father was supposed to keep his word and take you fishing. Oh, that's what it is. You had an expectation. Even at 5 years old, we all have expectations. You understand? And
Yeah.
so like getting down to that was like, okay, this is what it is. And it made
Hmm.
me, it kind of freed me, honestly, because I didn't, it helped me to forgive my father, obviously, in time, but it helped me to understand like, okay, I'm not crazy. you know, there's
Right.
a root to this. There's a root to this.
Yeah, it's funny how it all works out and comes together, and we're more predictable than we think we are. We all think we're crazy or we're different or we're unique, but
Absolutely.
we're really all the same.
No, we're really all the same. And I think I often tell, I say, if you can get down to the space of expectation, that helps you to understand, okay, is this expectation realistic? Is it unrealistic? Then it becomes a you thing and you become more accountable and less victimized. Right. And I think
Yes.
it's okay to have, it's important to have expectations, right? Because we can't just settle for anything. But I also think you reclaim your power when you're able to get to that space. Okay, so my expectation just wasn't met.
Hmm.
That's why I'm so pissed.
And what do you think about like verbalizing what your expectation is to the other person, maybe to
I
advocate for yourself?
I think that's also a part of emotional intelligence. That also yields that agency, right? To say like, yo, this is what I actually was expecting. And I think oftentimes, think about this, Megan. People have been mad at you. People have been mad at me for expectations that you and I didn't know anything about.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't figure out why they're upset. And then when they finally tell you, it a lot of times is a complete miscommunication of they thought you were doing,
Absolutely.
or vice versa. You expected something and they were like, oh, I thought you were doing that, or, whatever the situation is.
Absolutely. And I think, but again, that goes to a space of we actually don't have real conversations with each other. Because think about it, in
Yeah.
safety, right? If our relationships are great relationships are to be safe, we should be able to communicate our expectations to one another. And I think, and I often tell people, it's not one of those things like, here are my expectations. I think you have those conversations through discourse. I always say you massage your way to the truth. There's some people who are just like straight shooters. This is what I expect, da, 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 which is, cool. I respect that. But oftentimes you learn each other through massaging your way to the truth and having conversations and even just hearing. Like you could say to me, like, yeah, my expectation of her was just to do this. I did this. Now I'm understanding that that's your expectation. You understand? Like it doesn't always have to be this uncomfortable way that we think. You massage your way to the truth.
Interesting. I like that. Since it's Men's Health Month and we're talking about men, what is a
Mhm.
small daily action that can help men build resilience? Something they could start with that might be a little more actionable.
I always say, name how you feel, right? Identify how you feel, and always say to yourself, I'm going to get through this.
I love that. You're putting out that positivity that this is going to work.
Yeah, I think the thing is, I always say when you're dealing with mental health, you have to be on the offense, not the defense.
Oh,
Cause think about this, man.
yeah.
Somebody's gonna piss you off at some point. Somebody's gonna make you mad. Somebody's gonna trigger you. You already know this is gonna happen. We don't know when. Do you understand what I'm saying? We know
Yeah,
that life is going to happen,
it
and so
will.
I think it's important to know what you're working with. I teach this. I said, we have shadow and light, but we
Yes.
all too often we focus on shadow, and we never strengthen the light, or we're never even familiar with the light that we have. And in you saying, I'm going to get through this, you're already saying that I'm resilient.
Love that.
You,
I think
you,
that's
you
so
get it?
important. Yeah, absolutely. It's so important.
Yeah.
So, a lot of our audience are cancer patients. And so, mindset is something that we preach hugely that, it's hard and you're going to have days where it doesn't work. But if you can
Yeah.
have a baseline of hope and,
Yes.
I'm going to beat this, I am going to do this, like that, it really helps.
Absolutely. And I always say, like, when you're building your mental health journey, right? I say, if I offered you a skyscraper on sand, would you take it? Or would you take the one that's on like concrete, like that's reinforced concrete? The reinforced concrete has to be the foundation of knowing the light that you possess, and knowing your hope being your baseline, knowing that you have strength, knowing that you are resilient, knowing the light in you has to be your baseline, has to be your foundation. Because life will life.
Yes.
You know,
And it does.
it does. And so you have to know how to say, like, I've gone through so many things in my life, and I'm telling you, man, I'll say, like, I'm gonna get through this. I don't know how, but I'm gonna get through this.
Yes.
I
I
always
love
say
that.
that.
Yeah, it's so important. Just verbalizing it, you're putting it out to the universe, and that's the first step.
Absolutely. Your words can build worlds or they can tear them down. So your
Yes.
words are very powerful. So say I will, saying those are like powerful statements. I will get through this.
Yes. Oh, 100%. I totally love that. Okay. So, in line with that, then, if
Mhm.
someone is hitting a breaking point, stress, burnout, loss, like I said, we've got cancer patients. When they hit that hard thing, what's that first step that they're going to take towards the healing when they're in that moment of despair?
I think one of the biggest things I teach on having a wellness toolkit, right? I
Ooh,
teach
love that.
corporations to have a wellness toolkit, but we as individuals need to have a wellness toolkit. And part of the wellness toolkit is identifying your lifelines. Those are the people that you can be your most authentic self around. They won't judge you. You feel safe. Identifying who those people are immediately and sharing with them, like, yo, I don't think I'm going to make it through this. Today, I'm just having one of those days. I don't think I'm going to pull through. Even in you, because the power of a secret is in keeping it, it's not the secret itself. So if you feel like, if you're feeling shame that day, if you're feeling, in keeping the shame, that's the power of it. When you confess it, it loses its power. And so, like, I think the first step when a person is in despair, going through burnout, is contacting a lifeline
I love
and
that.
saying it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I know who is your person.
Who's your person? And I always say, like, have several, right? They could be your therapist, they could be your pastor, they could be your friend, cancer patient, it could be the doctor. It could, but identify somebody where you feel safe to say, like, this is what I'm feeling right now. There is so much power in just confessing what you actually feel.
Yeah. And get it off your chest.
Get it off your chest.
So, when men are in this place and maybe they don't know how to ask for help, how can their friends or their partners support them through that?
One of the interesting things I tell people is, like, when you yourself are on your healing journey, when you're healing, you become attractive. And I don't mean it like sexually attractive, meaning like people are drawn to you and people get curious. Megan, I noticed you're not, you're showing up a little bit differently. Like, there's something different about you. What's going on? What's happening? Did you say, yeah, I've been in therapy.
Yeah.
I've learned, I'm learning. So I always say, if you always be on your healing journey while you're encouraging somebody else to be on theirs.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. They always say, confidence is attractive, and so I think when you are confident and you feel healthy, you feel good, you're happy, you are going to draw people in, and they are going to notice maybe you're standing up a little taller.
Yeah. I always say that is the most important thing we could ever offer anyone is our healed whole self. Our healing whole self. And so, like, I always say, stay on your healing journey, especially while you're encouraging others to be on theirs. Like my sister, for example, I'm the oldest, but my sister, she's been on her healing journey. And I've been like, yo, I noticed you show up a little bit differently. She's like, yeah, I've been going to therapy. She's like, yeah, I know she doesn't get mad about certain things. I noticed that she's very calm when we have, like, discourse and we have disagreements. She's someone, I was like, I called her, I said, Jocelyn, I'm so impressed that you didn't go off. She was like, yeah, I learned that my anger issues, da, da, da. I was like, oh, you know?
Yeah. Well, the first step is recognizing that you have that trigger in the first place and what it is, like we were talking about in the beginning.
Absolutely.
If you can see it, then you can do something about it. But if we don't see it, then we're just reacting.
Absolutely. I think just letting somebody know that you'll be there for them. Because, we're fragile. Men are fragile. We're really fragile. And I know I'm probably going to lose my man card, but we're really fragile. And so you have to, like, be very ginger about that. So if it's like, yo, I'm here for you. Just, I'm here. Go on your healing journey. I'm here whenever you need me. That's it.
Yeah, so it's so important because you're giving them that safe space of I'm just here. So I think that's huge.
I think knowing somebody's always there, it's something, it's like, think when we're children, our parents, right? Not saying our parents are perfect, but we weren't as afraid to do certain things because we knew our parents would be there for us.
Yeah,
It's the same thing.
definitely. It's your safety net.
It's your safety net.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. So we are an advocacy group, and one of the things that we really promote is getting checks. So a yearly dilated eye exam, we're checking our physical body for cancers, things like that.
hmm
How can men check in on their emotions in the same way? What can they check to kind of say, "Hey, I'm doing okay," or "Oh, maybe I need to talk to someone."
Introspection has to be intentional. It has to be intentional. And the thing about introspection that makes it so amazing to me is like it's a deep dive into your life experience. And I always compare it to an archaeological dig, right? I love the History Channel. They're excavating ancient ruins, and you find artifacts and you find treasures, right? Treasure is
Yep.
like the light, and artifacts are like the information as to why you
Mm,
show up the way you show up. If we as men do that more intentionally, we will know to say like, "Yo, I'm not good. Let me go get help about this." Instead of what men often do is we work ourselves to death, or you know what I mean, or we
yes.
find unhealthy coping mechanisms that could be drinking, drugs, sex, all type. You know what I mean, just all types of craziness. But if we can be more intentional about spending time with ourselves, because here's the thing: on this human plane, the most important relationship we have is with ourselves.
Yeah, true.
You understand? Do you understand what I'm saying? So I
Yes.
don't want to. I don't want to bump into a 43-year-old man who's like, I don't know myself because he hasn't spent time with himself. So
Right.
that's why I'm getting these young men at 17, 18, 19 years old. Like, no, you need to know who you are. You need to spend time with yourself. So if men can be intentional and set aside time, even if it's just like, yo, how am I feeling? Why do I feel this way? And just sitting with yourself and not being uncomfortable. Normalize spending time with yourself.
I love that. So instead of self-medicating and pushing everything down, we're gonna dig it up.
We're gonna dig it up.
We're gonna dig it
We're
up.
gonna dig it up. And here's the thing. Here's the thing about it. This is the most important thing. You engage in introspection through the lens of curiosity, not through the lens of judgment and shame.
I
Be
think that's
curious
the
about
most important part right there is no
yes,
judgment.
no judgment, no shame. Because we all done things that we're like, ugh, I don't want nobody to know about that. You
Sure.
you you, you understand what I'm saying? So it's
Yep.
like the curious. Be curious about yourself, not judgmental or shameful about your experiences.
Yeah. Oh, so important. Very, very important because that's a spiral you don't want to go down.
No. Because when you stay in a cycle of shame, shame tends to become our identity, which is why it's so evil. Because
Oh,
you tend to
yeah.
take it on as an identity. Like, I am this. No, no, no. That's something you experienced. Or that may have been something that you did. We all have done things that we're not proud of, right? But it's not
Yeah.
the totality of your existence. And so that's why it's important to look at it through the lens of curiosity and not shame.
Yes. So my person that I work with calls that faulty beliefs. When you say, I
Yes.
am this, I am that, you're not. Those are faulty beliefs. They're not real. You're creating it.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. Faulty beliefs.
Faulty
Absolutely.
beliefs. Yep. Okay. And some of them come from, like you said, when your child is maybe it was completely innocent on your parents' part. Maybe they just were busy working one day and they didn't watch you dance in the living room and you got super offended. That can trigger a faulty belief of I'm not good enough. In that one innocent moment that nobody really did anything malicious and it was, surface level nothing, that can trigger that faulty belief that then when you're 40 you're trying to figure out where does this come from, why do I think I'm not deserving of attention or whatever it is.
No, absolutely. I
It's
had a
wild.
conversation with my father. I had a conversation with my father that I was so grateful that I was able to like talk to him about certain things. Even at 24, I was like had the wherewithal to ask him. And I thought I was like, Daddy, I thought that you didn't like me because you always like suck it up, don't cry, da da da. And he was like, son, he said, I wanted you to be yourself. He said, but I recognize the world is cold.
Oh,
He said, I just wanted to prepare you for life. And
yeah.
he said, I absolutely love you and I like you. And
Oh,
I said, that was like, so to your point, I had a hidden belief. I had a faulty belief thinking that my father didn't necessarily like me. It wasn't that at all. He just wanted me to be prepared for life in the way that he saw it, you know?
yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of like what we were talking about with the expectation and the miscommunication.
Yeah,
Yeah. Whew. Tough
absolutely.
stuff, man. We are getting deep today over here.
Yes.
Okay. Speaking of healing and strength, how do you define strength today? And how is it different from what you were taught when you were growing up? What are we looking at as our
Ooh.
strength?
Yeah, I thought, strength was suppressing and keeping it moving. That's what I thought strength was. But today, strength is being vulnerable to say like, "Yo, I don't have it. I don't have it today. Like, I'm not. I don't have 100% today. I'm tired. I feel weak. I feel broken." I think that's strength today. Being able to be honest about what it is that you're experiencing and not having any shame attached to it.
I love that. And I actually feel like people are way more understanding and forgiving of you when you do say that. You know, when you drop the ball and you've not let on anything's wrong, people are like, "What is up with you? Why did you not do what you were supposed to, or why aren't you at 100%?" But when you can tell people, "Hey, I'm struggling right now," they're way more likely to give you that grace and say, "It's okay, I got it. Let me help you."
Or they can even say, "Man, I'm struggling too.
Yeah, or
Thank you for
that.
thank you for being brave enough to say something." Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for validating what I'm going through too. Yeah. And
Yes.
that, I think, validation's a huge piece of this too.
Yeah. Everybody in some way, shape, or form, even the billionaires, because I've coached millionaires, celebrities. They all go through. It just looks different.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, like we said before, we're all the same. We all have these same basic emotions. And,
Yeah.
if you boil it down, you've said shadow and light, it's fear and love. Those are
Yeah.
our bottom base rock. Like, that's where we all start. So
Yeah.
we are the same and we are living the same experiences, even though they do look different, but those emotions, they're all the same.
Yeah. Oof. Emotion. I say oftentimes that emotions are not evidence of the truth, but they are the truth of our experiences.
Oh, I like that.
Because think of what I just said about my father. Emotionally, I thought that my father didn't like me, but
Yeah,
then the truth was he just wanted me to be prepared for this world.
right.
But
Yeah,
emotionally, the truth, that's what it felt like.
that was your truth.
That was my truth. So there's
Right.
felt truth and then there's the truth.
Yes. Oh, that's so interesting. And, again, with the miscommunications, yeah, if you can talk and say the uncomfortable thing and open the dialogue, maybe you can figure out that the conflict you're having with someone is really a miscommunication. And maybe it's not even a conflict in the first place. I can say I have had friends and family members who I've been on the sidelines watching them fight and saying, like, you guys are not fighting over the same thing, right? And
Yeah.
it's when you're on the outside, you're like, you guys are ridiculous. You're not even talking about the same thing. What is this? But when you're in it, you can't see it sometimes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I said and oftentimes, again, like you illustrated it perfectly, even with couples, oftentimes the fight that they're having isn't about that. It's about
Right.
whatever unaddressed thing you ain't dealt with, unaddressed thing she ain't dealt with. And it's colliding into this one moment.
It's
So
about the dirty dishes.
yes, it's about the dirty dishes. It's about the fact that you came home at 10 o'clock and you didn't tell me where you were. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like it's yeah,
Yeah. They're letting those things fester and they're going to bubble up.
yeah. I think and there's a connection with letting things fester and illness, and you
Yes.
know what I mean, the psychosoma connection, and
Yes.
and that's also really the reason why we should do this because I want us to be as healthy as possible. Like this generation, because we have technology and things like that, we're so dependent on technology. We're not really taking care of our health as much as we should be. We're arguing with bots online. You know what I mean? It's all this craziness happen, and it's like all that's connected to our health. That psychosoma connection is very real.
Oh, it is very real. And that we have talked about that and we definitely believe that line of thinking because They will tell you right off the bat, stress is bad for your health. So if an emotion
Yes,
can negatively affect your health, an emotion therefore should positively affect your health. So it is all related.
absolutely.
That's my personal belief.
No, it's true. No,
Disclaimer, I'm
it's the
not a
truth.
doctor.
No, no, but you know what's interesting? When I was bullied as a child, I would get stomach aches. And they said
Yes.
for kids, that's where kids store their emotions in their bellies.
Right.
And so I would have stomach aches often as a child. So I know for a fact that it's connected. That you know what I mean? That's a real
Yeah,
thing. And I didn't feel
absolutely.
safe. And I didn't feel safe to tell my mom or my dad because I didn't want to be perceived a certain way by them, and I didn't really tell. You know what I mean? So I just kept it
Yeah.
in.
Oh, yeah, that's tough. So, Purvis, what is one belief about manhood or health that you wish every listener would challenge? What is like a big misconception?
That men don't have feelings, and that
Yeah,
we don't have an emotional world. We absolutely have an emotional world.
absolutely.
We feel a lot of things. We just don't share it. We feel a lot of things.
Yeah.
And that we are harder on ourselves than you can ever imagine.
There's a lot of pressure on men. I mean, on
Yeah.
women too, but it's different. Men's pressure is it's a different kind of pressure.
Yeah. I remember during the pandemic, a lot of people couldn't work during the pandemic.
Hmm.
And I was on a Zoom with a bunch of fathers, and they were just devastated that they couldn't provide for their families financially. And I said to them, I said, "But you get to provide, emotionally." And they were like this, like deer in headlights. I was like, "But you can provide something. You can provide safety for your children. You can provide attention and presence for your children, allowing your children to process and bond with you in ways that you never got a chance to do when you were working."
Right.
And so, like, that moment, that moment, they were like, at the end of the conversation, they were like, "Wow, I never, it was never even crossed their minds." Um, we we want to provide, we want to be known as a good man. Every man, regardless, wants to be known as a good man.
I think that there's so much put on men in responsibility and yeah, providing and being the head of the house and leading and those are all kind of the stereotypes that are put on men and that's a big role to fill.
Absolutely, and even if you like, for me, like my family looks at me like the black sheep, like I'm like this free spirited. That's a lot of pressure on me because it's like, no, Purpose, you should be doing this. You should have a 9 to 5, and you should be da 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 da. Da. And it's like I'm not, but I'm being my most authentic self. And it's like I'm not, in some of my family's eyes, I'm not allowed to do that because
Hmm.
only girls can be free spirits. Boys can't be free spirits.
Yeah.
So it's a lot.
It is, and it's funny because I think you said free spirit, but also creatives. I think a lot of women are thought of as like artsy and creative, but there are some amazing men who are, artists, musicians, all the things,
Yeah,
and they need that room to be creative too. Because I'll tell you what, I am a creative person, and when you try to put a creative person in a role of someone who's not a creative person, we don't function well. And I will tell you, I can
yeah,
attest to that because, and
I can too.
yeah, and I didn't beat myself up, but I stressed about, I'm not structured enough. I'm not this enough. I need to be more responsible. Why am I so flaky? Why am I all these things? And then I realized I'm a creative and I'm a little out there. And I need to play to my strengths instead of trying to fit myself in a box that is somebody else's strengths.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah,
think that's healthy. And I'm happy that you arrived there.
I
I've just
did.
arrived there. I just
Well,
arrived there
recently
within the
as
last
well
couple
for
years.
me too. And I'll tell you what,
Yeah.
it was funny, not to get like too into the crazy woo woo or anything, but
Yeah.
I took an astrology class just for fun. I didn't even know if I believed in astrology, but I was like, this will be fun.
Hmm.
And you have 3 signs, not one sign, which I did not know. So your normal sign is your sun sign, and I am a
Hmm.
Sagittarius.
Hmm.
I fit Sagittarius slightly, not really, which is why I kind of never really put anything into it. Well, you also have a moon and a rising, and I'm Pisces in both of those, and your moon is your emotion. And if you
Hmm.
read a Pisces, it is me to a T. I am way more Pisces. It's water, it's flowy, it's creative, it's dreamy, it's romantic. It's all the things I've always been. And it just, not that, not to justify it, but to understand it and
It
then use
offers
it.
insight. It
Yeah, it
offers
offers
insight. Yeah.
insight and to use it to my benefit, but to have something that backed up why I'm the way I am in a positive light was kind of huge for me. And again, I didn't realize this until I was 40, but I was like, oh my gosh, instead of just, looking at myself in a negative way of I'm flaky and I'm not, structured enough and I can't remember things, look at it as I am very artistic. I'm, a free spirit. I'm very, all these other positive things. And so that was, I think, just allowing myself to see myself differently and the strengths of what I could do.
Absolutely not. And the same for me. I had somebody prophesy to me. She said you're a bird. She said you just fly. She said people do not understand it. She said but you understand it. And I was like I do. She says you got to stop beating yourself up because you need to embrace that you're a bird. You just fly. You fly. And she said it's not like you don't have success and you don't have all these receipts of success and all these things that you've done, but for you it's about the freedom. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're right." I She said you'd rather, she said you structure, she said you crumble in structure.
That's me. I can't do
Yeah.
structure. I cannot do it. And you're a bird, I'm a fish. I'm all water
Yeah.
signs and flow and I'm a fish. I need to be just flowing in the tide and I thrive and I can do amazing things. But you put me in a box with structure and I think I'm stupid. And it took me a lot of years to understand that. So anyone
Yeah.
listening, please be
Yeah.
inspired by what we're saying of if you feel like you're just not measuring up or you're just not enough, maybe you're just in the wrong box. Maybe you're a bird or a fish or something else.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. No, absolutely. And I think it's important that we again know that we have shadow and light. You always learn to manage the shadow, but you learn to strengthen the light. And I think oftentimes we're too shadow focused and we're not light focused. And I think when you are light focused, you discover more light. You discover more great things about you. You learn to manage that, right? Like, yeah, I know I'm sensitive. I know I have all these things, but all these things I have going on over here, the light is so amazing, and you can achieve more from light than you can from shadow.
Focus on the positive and what you can do, not all the things you can't do. And I think that that is huge. And allow yourself to find your strengths and be who you are and not just, society
Yeah.
norms. So yeah, from two creative, crazy people over here. Not that you're crazy, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Aura Biosciences is a clinical stage biotechnology company focused on developing precision therapies for solid tumors that aim to preserve organ function. Our lead candidate, Belsar, is currently in late stage development for primary choroidal melanoma and in early stage development in other ocular oncology indications and bladder cancer. Our mission is to grow as an innovative global oncology company that positively transforms the lives of patients. For more information, please visit us at aurabiosciences.com.
Purvis, if you could give men one key message for Men's Health Month, what would it be?
Gosh. If I can give one message. Okay, this is something I often say to everybody, but I'll say to men. Life happens to you, but life happens from you. If you focus always on life happening to you, you become victimized. But if you focus on life happening from you, you become empowered.
That's
So
amazing.
even though you may be struggling and you may have real legit issues and real legit diagnoses, there's so many people who have diagnoses and they are thriving. You
Yeah.
understand? So what you tend to focus on matters. I've been through a lot of things that I should be the world's biggest victim. but the things that have come from me have overshadowed what I've experienced.
Yeah, it's up to you to take it and make something out of it. And you can have a victim complex, or you can make something great and help other people. And I love that you're doing that and finding your way in that and inspiring others to do that.
Thank you. I don't want anybody to go through what I've been through. Up until a point, right? Life has been,
Yeah.
I've been okay, but like just my rearing, my upbringing was so crazy. I don't want, even if you do experience the things I experienced or even worse, I want you to know that that's not the final, that's not the end all be all. There's more. If you continue to persist and become more resilient, things will open up for you. I'm a witness.
I love that. Yes. Okay. So, where can listeners connect with your books, your coaching, your upcoming projects? Where can we follow you?
At Pervis Taylor on all social media platforms, and pervistaylor.com. PervisTaylor.com.
And then before we close up, a couple more things I'd like to ask you kind of quickly.
Okay.
What is one word that defines a healthy man?
Accountability.
Oh, I love that. That's great. Okay. And what is one daily habit that keeps you grounded?
Prayer.
Love that too. Okay. And what is a book or a mantra that you live by?
What you focus on, your body will follow.
Well, you are just super inspirational. I love everything you've said. This has been so fantastic. So, is there anything that you want to say before we wrap up? Any final thoughts?
This has been a wonderful conversation. I love what I do. Healing is possible for all of us. Healing is not a destination, it's a journey. It isn't linear, but it's continual. And I think that's important for people to know, like, you heal for the rest of your life. And I just want people to know that. So it's not like I went to therapy for a month or 6 months. No, you may be cool, but there'll be some more things. You know what I mean? Like, it's an ongoing process. So it's not a destination, it's a journey.
Yes, because as soon as you think you're good, something else will happen that'll trigger
Yes.
something. And then you'll realize
No.
Yeah. There's a whole nother issue you weren't aware of.
Absolutely.
Oh, I love that. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your time and all of this wonderful knowledge. And we're just very, very grateful for you. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Absolutely. And to all of our viewers, thank you for watching, because we couldn't have this podcast without our viewers. So you guys coming and watching, it means the world to us. Please continue to subscribe, like, and comment. Please follow all of our socials and like and comment on our posts as well. The more interaction we have, the better this all functions. It really, really does help us. And a gigantic thank you to our sponsors. None of this happens without the sponsors. So if you like this free education that we're bringing to you, please check out our sponsors, check out their websites. They're fantastic and they're doing wonderful things in our community. We are incredibly grateful for our sponsors. Next, please go to acureinsight.org. Up at the top, there is a button to click on for our newsletter. Please join the newsletter. We send a newsletter out at the end of the month with all of our updates and things that are important. And then we send an occasional email here and there if it's like a pharma update or a clinical trial or something that we think is really relevant. And then check out our Zoom every Tuesday night. There's a room for regular and a room for metastatic. So you can choose the room that's your comfort level and connect with some other OMIs and find a buddy. We also have our Cure Companions program. You can join that if you're new and you want a veteran buddy to be paired with. Or if you're the veteran, maybe you'd like to donate your time and mentor someone who's new to the community. So check out Cure Companions. And then we've got 5Ks coming up. The new 2026 5Ks have just been announced. So please check that out. And join us at some of our events. Rare Disease Day is coming up in February. So we will be in DC on Capitol Hill towards the end of the month. So keep an eye out for that. We're going to have more information on that soon. And Swing for Sight is coming up this spring. That's our annual golf tournament in Napa. So we've got lots of events coming. So keep your eyes peeled. Sign up for that newsletter. And we will see you all next week.